Good evening from the CT State Middlesex Production Studio. I am Sean Arribas-Cockley.
And I am TJ Labby. Today we will be presenting video packages presented and created by students here at CT State. When you think about the state of Connecticut, what do you think about? The bright lights, the sights and sounds, or if you are of age and responsible, maybe Mohegan Sun?
Nah, when I think of Connecticut, I think of its nickname amongst its sister states, the Constitution State.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm kidding.
But no, seriously, we are going to take up some of your time to talk about the great things about this beautiful state, from the fantastic foods to the bright lights of the arena.
Then, we'll take you to locations scattered around some of the more niche activities that you can find just around the corner. First, though, let's circle back to our first statement. Food, and more specifically, the famous foods that you can discover in this state by watching a video I put together just for you. Apple cider donuts are one of Connecticut's favorite fall treats, and their popularity comes from a few key reasons rooted in New England tradition. First, Connecticut is part of a strong apple-growing region that dates back to the colonial times. Many of the state's orchards are still family-run, and every fall they press fresh apple cider. Apple cider donuts naturally grew out of this tradition, becoming a classic way to use that freshly made cider. Another big reason for their popularity is freshness. In Connecticut, many orchards make their own cider donuts right on site, using their own freshly pressed cider. There's nothing quite like getting a donut warm out of the fryer, something that's nearly impossible to recreate in a grocery store or a chain bakery. That warm, fresh experience keeps people coming back year after year. Cider donuts are also special because they're seasonal. You usually find them during apple picking season, which adds to the excitement. Their limited availability makes them feel like a once-a-year tradition that people look forward to as soon as autumn arrives. And of course, cider donuts fit perfectly with New England fall weather. Their warm, spiced flavor goes hand in hand with crisp air, colorful foliage, hay rides, pumpkins, and hot cider. They capture the cozy, nostalgic feeling that people love about autumn in Connecticut. Hot lobster rolls are one of Connecticut's most iconic foods, and their popularity goes all the way back to where they began. The very first lobster roll is widely believed to have been created in the 1920s in Milford, Connecticut at Perry's Restaurant. The original version wasn't cold or mixed with mayonnaise. It was a hot lobster, tossed in melted butter, and served on a toasted bun. Today, that simple, buttery creation is known as Connecticut-style lobster rolls because it started here. The warm version naturally became the state's signature style. Another reason hot lobster rolls are so beloved is regional identity. All of New England loves lobsters, but each state has their own version. Maine became known for the cold mayo-based rolls, while Connecticut proudly celebrates the warm, buttered version as part of its culinary personality. It's a food that reflects the state's taste and traditions. Connecticut's shorelines culture also plays a huge role. From Mystic to Westport, the coast is full of seafood shacks, docks, and summer eateries where fresh seafood is a staple. Hot lobster rolls are one of the most popular items on those menus, especially during the warm tourist season where people flock to the water. But their appeal isn't limited to summer. Unlike cold lobster rolls, which often feel seasonal, the hot, buttery style is comforting all year round. Many Connecticut residents enjoy them, but their appeal is not limited to summer. Unlike cold lobster rolls, which often feel seasonal, the hot style is comforting all year round. New England clam chowder has deep roots in Connecticut, and its popularity comes from centuries of tradition. Connecticut is part of New England, where chowder has been a regional staple since the 1700s. It's woven into the area's identity, just like lobster rolls, cider donuts, and maple syrup. The dish also traces back to colonial and maritime history. Early settlers and fishermen relied on clams because they're easy to find, and chowder was practical. A hearty and simple stew that could be made into large pots on ships or along the coast. These traditions carried forward and became part of Connecticut's local cuisine. Another reason chowder is so beloved is its comfort food appeal. Creamy, warm, and filling, it's the perfect match for Connecticut's cool fall, winter, and even early spring weather. For many people, it feels nostalgic and cozy. Chowder is also tied to community events. It shows up at fairs, festivals, and maritime celebrations across the state. Many Connecticut towns even host chowder cook-offs or seafood festivals, keeping this classic dish in the spotlight.
That looks like some tasty food, Sean. Now we move to the sights and sounds of the ballpark. First, we dive into a new league that is only 2 years old, with Natalia's project about the Waterbury softball organization called the Brass City Latin League.
So what inspired myself and Jerry to create the Brass City Latin League was that we've been playing softball for the last couple of years in Waterbury, Connecticut. He comes from a background of playing out in Danbury. I come from playing here in Waterbury and traveling to different states and stuff like that. We figured we never had a fall ball softball league like most slow pitch leagues in Connecticut. So we decided to start our first ever modified softball league here in Waterbury. It runs every Sunday. Most games are at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it runs till maybe 6 in the afternoon. So we try to make it as positive of a family-friendly environment because a lot of people here got kids. A lot of people are like second, third generation softball players, so they bring their parents, their children, their grandkids, their grandparents. It's a pretty good atmosphere. It's a family-friendly thing. Everybody looks forward to playing softball on Sunday and also having the culture of their family here at the park and just being engaged with the community and just being all in one spot, you know, doing something that everybody enjoys to be a part of. So starting off with the name is real simple. It's called the Brass City Latin League. We got a big flux of Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, South Americans, American people. And like, it's just a culture community thing we're trying to build. It's not just you got to be a Latino to play here. It's really a community involvement that we're just trying to build a bigger picture than just softball. Somewhere that people have a sanctuary, a place to enjoy the game and have fun, enjoy a beer, eat food, and just get together and have a good time.
We move on from softball to baseball, just 30 minutes down the road to a historic place called New Britain Stadium, the home of the New Britain Rockcats from 1983 to 2015. Here's Brendan's project talking about the past and present history of New Britain baseball.
Anyways, we are here talking about the New Britain Rockcats today and knowing their history with someone who works for the New Britain Bees now and might know a little bit of history about the Rockcats as well. Hello, TJ. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you very much. So, you work for the New Britain Bees. That is correct, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Cool. And how much do you know on like the New Britain Rockcats aspect of that side?
So the New Britain Rockcats aspect of it, so I used to go to plenty of games when I was little. Unfortunately, I didn't make through many of the games because of my autism. But later on through the years, I was able to go to plenty of games and make it through a lot of them. Storied franchise. It was great seeing a minor league team in New Britain. They were the minor league team of the Minnesota Twins before ultimately becoming the minor league team of the Colorado Rockies. And it was just great seeing a city unite as one in the ballpark, and just getting to see all the players that came through there. Byron Buxton, Trevor Story, Aaron Hicks, Justin Morneau, David Ortiz, just the all-time greats played at that ballpark. Roger Clemens played for the New Britain Red Sox when they were around. It was just one of the storied franchises, and it was great to see something like them of their caliber.
Oh, 100%. And I think is I love going to Bees games. They're so much fun, and you're just getting to see guys who are trying to make their name for themselves and try to get up to the majors. Yeah. It's cool to see how they kind of grow as a player in a sense, because sometimes they play really, really good down there, and who knows, they might get that call up to AAA, even going to the majors someday. So it's really, really nice to see all those young kids try to get a chance.
Exactly.
So let's go into what the New Britain Rockcats became, because they ultimately became the Hartford Yard Goats as well. So what do you have, like, any history on the Yard Goats at all, or is it very minimal?
It's very minimal because basically what happened over in New Britain is they had a higher market in Hartford and decided to leave for Hartford. Now, New Britain baseball didn't leave. They eventually became the New Britain Bees and were in the Atlantic League with the likes of the Long Island Ducks, the York Revolution, and the Bridgeport Bluefish when they were still around before they were disbanded in 2017. Wally Backman was actually their manager the first year that they were around. So the New Britain baseball stayed around, but the minor league team went over to Hartford. And at the time when I heard about the Hartford Yard Goats, I'm like, what's the point of having a minor league team in Hartford? No disrespect to Hartford, but I just feel like it didn't make sense. And then they had to make the ballpark, Duncan Park, which is now one of the best ballparks in minor league baseball, hands down. But I didn't know a lot about the Hartford Yard Goats until I started going to games, seeing them play the Binghamton Mets or the Trenton Thunder or the Somerset Patriots and all those sorts of people. And it was great to see. I got to see Brett Beatty play when he was a prospect, Mark Vientos play when he was a prospect. You get to see guys like Ryan Ritter, Amadel Garcia, all those guys. You get to see the future of the sport right in your very eyes. And I got used to seeing the Yard Goats around, and it's actually cool to see them around because it would have been a travesty if minor league baseball left Connecticut. But Hartford has brought a storied tradition upon them, and even though they're the AA of the Rockies, which is unfortunately one of the worst teams in baseball.
That is unfortunate, though. Even though I do have a little bit of a soft spot for the Rockies. I do like a couple of the guys that came through their system, but unfortunately they really have nothing.
No, they really don't, unfortunately, and it's due to their owner and their payroll. But it's great to see the future of the sport before your very eyes. Max Scherzer's had a rehab start there. You've seen Lucas Giolito have a rehab start there. You never know who you're going to see. That's the greatness of minor league baseball and what people need to realize about it, that you're seeing the future of the sport pave their way to hopefully make it to the show.
Oh, 100%. And thank you, TJ, for coming out today. I really appreciate taking your time to talk about this, and hopefully everything goes well, man.
Of course.
From the diamond to the ice as we head to the capital city of Connecticut, Hartford, a cult classic team that you may have never heard of. To close out our sports segment, here is my video on the rich history of the Hartford Whalers.
The sound you hear was the life of Hartford hockey. Brass Bonanza or the Hartford Whalers Victory March, written by Jack Say. From the likes of Gordie Howe. His son Marty Howe.
We see Bobby Bourne 6'2", 200 against Marty Howe 6'1", 195. Once again,
along with his other son Mark Howe. Ron Francis.
Krieger goes over his stick, and a Bruin fits it to him, and Francis deflects it with 25 seconds left over the glove hand.
Kevin Dineen.
After it, passes behind the goal, right out in front. There's Deneen. He scores!
Dave Keon.
And that one hit the side of the goal. Here's another try. Keon scores! Dave Keon.
And Bobby Hull. The Hartford Whalers were one of the biggest cult classic hockey teams in NHL history. Founded by Howard Baldwin in 1972, the New England Whalers first started in the WHA. Then 7 years later, in 1979, transitioned to the NHL as part of a merger between the WHA and NHL, becoming the Hartford Whalers, Connecticut's first pro franchise. Moving into the 80s, the Whalers had a rough stretch of time for the next 5 years. They had high potential, but they needed something to get over the hump, and that came when they drafted Ron Francis, their very first captain, in 1981. Francis was one of the greatest defensemen in not only Whalers history, but NHL history. In 1986, the Whalers would make a huge run in the NHL playoffs, sweeping their arch rivals, the Quebec Nordiques, 3-0 to make it to the second round, where they would face the Montreal Canadiens, one of the biggest powerhouses in the NHL. Hartford was rocking during this series, but one of the biggest moments would happen in Game 4. Down 2-1 in the series and a 1-1 tie in Game 4. Kevin Dineen with the puck on his stick, striving toward the net.
Robertson got a late start. Deneen scores!
Dineen would score the game winner to tie this series up at 2 apiece. This series would go to a deciding Game 7 and an OT. This would happen.
La rondelle libre, reprise par le mieux, le tir.
They would lose Game 7 to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens. It was an even tougher pill to swallow because it would be the farthest Hartford would ever go in the playoffs, as they would fall short in the first round from 1986 to 1992, which is an NHL record. Some say this is when the Whalers died. That was not the case. In 1991, Hartford would trade Ron Francis to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and to add gasoline to the fire, he would win 2 Stanley Cups there, and the fans were livid. Their captain was gone, but the turmoil would not end there. Howard Baldwin had to sell the team to a new owner, a man by the name of Richard Gordon, in 1988, who would later sell it to a man that would be the Grim Reaper of the Whalers, Peter Karmanos Jr. Fans didn't want to go to games anymore. You could hear the sounds of the game, and in hockey, that's like hearing a pin drop. Karmanos cared more about wins and losses instead of the fans, and believed the venue was too small to hold an NHL team, even though there were plans of expanding it. As on March 25, 1997, Karmanos announced that the Hartford Whalers would be relocating to Raleigh, North Carolina, under the new name the Carolina Hurricanes. And just 2 weeks later, on April 13th, it would be the final NHL game for the Whalers in franchise history.
A surrealistic final scene of the Civic Center Coliseum. You don't normally see the numbers hanging around at the end of a season. But listen, they're not hanging around. They're just trying to seep in what is left of the memories of National Hockey League play in the city of Hartford, Connecticut.
Hartford Wolfpack, who are the minor league affiliate of the New York Rangers and play at the People's Bank Arena in Hartford, the old Civic Center. Now, I wasn't personally alive during the time of the Hartford Whalers, but it was really interesting to look back at their storied history, and I hope you enjoyed it too. But for now, I'm TJ Labby, signing off.
Now going from what happens in the stadium, let's talk about places outside of it. Starting with something old and not used anymore, asylums. Our friend Alex has gone to the scene and has a video for us today.
The story of Cedar Crest Hospital begins in 1910. At the time, tuberculosis was one of the deadliest diseases. Over time, the name of the hospital would change. It was first known as the Hartford County Home for Persons Suffering from Tuberculosis, in 2012, Hartford State Sanatorium, and in 1976, Cedar Crest Regional Hospital. By this year, the hospital started focusing on patients suffering from mental illness, but unfortunately in 2010, the place would close and all patients would be moved to Middletown to be supervised. In 2018, the property was now owned by the town of Newington, and since then, it sits off the Berlin Turnpike and has become a very popular urbex destination in Connecticut.
Well, that sure was interesting. So let's step it down a notch and visit the quiet, quaint town of Simsbury. Sadie Kennedy has gone out and done the hard work of putting the following footage together for us today.
Simsbury, Connecticut has been one of Connecticut's towns since the early 1700s. With many beautiful things to do, favorite town spots include the Flower Bridge, downtown Simsbury, the Historical Society, the Children's Park, and many small businesses including fitness businesses. The Drake Hill Flower Bridge, located on the Farmington River, is loved by everyone in the town of Simsbury. Many people dedicate flower beds to their loved ones, or enjoy beautiful days walking across the bridge, and even some locals go around and care for the flowers on a routine basis. In 1984, the Flower Bridge was actually placed on the National Registry of Historical Places by the United States Department of the Interior. Downtown Simsbury is always busy. With car and foot traffic, there's always people exploring or walking the town. Downtown is home to many beautiful buildings and very popular coffee spots and restaurants everyone has known to love. Many people enjoy the Simsbury Meadow Park, home to the Children's Park where lots of people and kiddos go to every day, as well as the green field where the town holds many events and performances. Small businesses in Simsbury are always being started and growing every day. A few fitness small businesses include Kendall Lazowski's Pilates studio and Caitlin Rush's personal training business.
My name is Caitlin Rush and I live in Simsbury. My favorite thing about the town of Simsbury is the community here. All the people are so nice and helpful. My favorite thing to do in Simsbury is we really love taking the bike trail is right next to our house. We love taking the bike all the way down to the Flower Bridge and exploring down there. I've lived in Simsbury for about 3 years now. I chose to live in Simsbury because I really like the area. It's closer to my family. I love the restaurants nearby. There's just so much nearby where I live and I like that. Nothing's a far drive. I never have to drive farther than like 10 minutes. I just recently opened my own personal training studio called Crush Fitness right in Simsbury. I chose this location over others just because of the foot traffic in the area. I'm in a little plaza where there's a bunch of other businesses and there's a lot of women-owned businesses in Simsbury too.
Overall, Simsbury, Connecticut is a small but mighty town with so much heart and soul. The historic buildings, to beautiful views, and popular spots are what make the town unique and special. The community and growth in the town is lovely to be a part of and to share.
Now after that lovely display, let's visit something more historic to finish our tour of places in Connecticut. Gillette's Castle has been here since 1919, and Jill's historic video teaches all about the castle.
Ever since I was an infant, and for all I know before, I've had the idea that I'd like to drive a locomotive.
For over 100 years, Gillette Castle has been overlooking the Connecticut River, nestled in East Haddam. One of Connecticut's biggest attractions, this landmark is rich in history and beauty. The castle was built between 1914 and 1919 by famous actor and Hartford native William Gillette. He intended for the structure to be his retirement home. The building cost $1.1 million to complete, nearly $14 million today. Gillette was most famous for his portrayal of Sherlock Holmes. He originated many of Holmes's signature characteristics, such as his long curved pipe, cap, and large magnifying glass. He portrayed the character on radio, screen, and stage, conquering all three major performance spaces at the time in over 1,300 performances. He was the first person to write a play adaptation of the original Sherlock novel, securing permission from the character's creator, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He was also good friends with Mark Twain and Harriet Beecher Stowe. Gillette added many eccentricities to the building. The home includes a greenhouse, library, art gallery, and 2 tower rooms. The building has 47 one-of-a-kind doors, each intricately hand-carved. He strategically placed 3 separate mirrors through the house so he could view his liquor cabinet from the second-floor balcony. Having always had an affinity for trains, Gillette constructed a railway around the property. This ran 2 separate trains.
But now I've got my wish at last. And I'd like to see if some of you wouldn't like to come and take a ride. All maybe. We'll have a little ride around the place. What do you say? All right, we'll do it. Good thing, yes. All right. Goodbye.
After restoration, both trains are able to circle the grounds today. The grounds are also home to a long series of trails exploring the natural landscape. In recent years, after a lot of work, the state of Connecticut created some of the first wheelchair-accessible trails in a state park on these very grounds. The park has many activities for its visitors, such as staged reenactments of William Gillette and his wife Helen Gillette, and guided tours of the park trails and the castle interior. After Gillette's death in 1937, the property was inherited by his cousin, who sold it to the state of Connecticut in 1943. On October 7, 1944, the state opened the park to the public, and it has been welcoming tens of thousands of visitors each year since.
Let's talk about the activities around the state. First up is a place where you can have fun with friends, play some bowling along laser tag, and win big at the arcade. The place I'm referring to is Spare Time, and MG gives us the scoop on one of Connecticut's top entertainment places.
I'm Michaela.
My name's Ian. I'm Jacob.
My name is Alex Angeli.
Aubrey.
My name is Nicole.
My name is Mary Grace.
My name is Lewis. My name is Tommy. My name is Justin Schreiner.
My name is Ben Broshu.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I've been working here for 4 years.
I worked here since 2022.
I've worked here for almost 5 years.
I've been working at Spare Time for 3 months.
I've worked here since 2021, so 4 years.
Worked here for 2 years now.
And I have worked here for 4 years.
I've worked here for like 7 months.
I'm working here for 3.5 years probably.
I've been employed at Spare Time for 2.5 years.
My favorite part about working here is probably the people that I work with.
My favorite part is probably the staff.
My co-workers.
My favorite thing about working here is just like interacting with everybody, you know, helping out everybody that needs help.
Part is the environment. Everyone that works here is super cool.
My favorite part about the job is the people I work with.
My favorite part is learning how to fix games. Love my co-workers here.
My name is Ben Broshu. I'm 20 years old. I've been working here for 3.5 years probably. My favorite thing about working here is I get a new experience every day. You know, every party is a new experience for me, and I try to bring that kind of energy to every single day I come in here. I love my coworkers, they're all great, and obviously the food I get to take home is just a plus.
My name is Allie. I've been working at Spare Time for a little over 5 years now, and my favorite thing about working here is everybody that I work with. I genuinely work with such awesome people who make this really feel like family.
My favorite part about this place is probably the people that work here. It is such a comfy environment where everyone is having fun, whether it's the guests or the workers, and it's definitely a great place to visit if you're ever in Connecticut.
And my favorite part about the job is this guy right here.
Spare Time Entertainment has quickly become one of Connecticut's favorite destinations for fun and connection. With locations in Bristol, Windsor Locks, and Vernon, it brings people together through more than just bowling. Each center offers something for everyone, from state-of-art lanes and exciting arcade games to laser tag arenas, great food, and a full-service bar. What really makes Spare Time special is how it adds to our local communities. It's not just a place to play, it's where birthdays are celebrated, corporate teams bond, and families make memories. By hosting parties and events of all kinds, Spare Time helps create moments of laughter, teamwork, and joy across Connecticut. In a time when people are looking for experiences that bring them together, Spare Time Entertainment is keeping our communities active, social, and entertained, one game at a time.
Switching gears just a little bit, let's talk about an activity if you're of age and into art you may consider doing. Keely Segee takes us to the first black woman-owned tattoo shop in Connecticut. Who knows, maybe after seeing this, you may want to stop by.
Hello, my name is Brianna Tajay. I am the owner and artist of Pink Scorpion Inc. We are the first and only, currently, black female-owned tattoo studio in the history of the state of Connecticut. I got the name Pink Scorpion because I'm a Scorpio, you know, gang gang. And I love the color pink. It was just, and also I'm a huge Nicki Minaj fan, so kind of like off the Pink Friday kind of thing. So yeah. To be the first black woman to own a tattoo shop is still something that I'm trying to wrap my head around. I definitely have dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome throughout my journey. Like even with my apprentices, they was like, "Oh yeah, she's the owner. This is my boss." I'm like, I'm just a girl, like, you know. So and I'm waiting for somebody to be like, "Nah, I did it first," you know. So it's kind of weird to say it out loud. But it is an honor. It's something that I very much appreciate. And then when I see how it resonates with other people that I tattoo or that they say or they recommend me and stuff like that, I realized how much of a impact that I'm making. So it means a lot to me. So I would say the closest style that I would claim is a new emerging style. It's called Afro-Americana. When someone brings a piece to me, it's very rare that I would turn it down because I like to try all different things. I, at this point, would say that I'm self-taught. My journey to tattooing, honestly, has a little bit of a dark history. I was super, super depressed. I was having a lot of mental health concerns, and it honestly came from self-harming, honestly. And I started to tattoo myself as a ways to cope, and to me it felt like a better or more beautiful return. So like instead of scarring up my body, I was able to give my body art, you know, and add something to me that would add something to my aesthetic, or, you know, something I could be proud of at the end of the day. And I realized that that could transfer to other people. And when I started to tattoo, I realized how much people would open up to me, how much the things that they would talk about. And I also realized that there weren't many people like me in the tattoo industry. Like, the tattoo industry is a very white, male-dominated industry. So I felt like I could give a different level of comfort, personalization to the experience. You know, when you get a tattoo with me, you're not going to be judged by what you look like. You're not going to be sexualized. You're not going to be treated like you're just your money. You know, it's a whole experience to make someone feel comfortable. So that same type of care or like tenderness that I gave myself in those moments, I love to give that to my clients. People will try you just because you're a woman, you know, and then don't let you be a woman of color. They don't take you seriously. You know, there's a lot of people that will try to little girl you, that will try to over sexualize you. Like, there are experiences I know that people have been, sexually assaulted or sexually harassed just to try to get on in the tattoo industry. Like, oh, if you're not putting out, then you can't work in my shop, or oh, you're not putting out, so your rent is now this. So definitely discrimination, sexism, I've experienced that a lot, for sure. Or even people just respecting your time, respecting your art. I feel like, especially in Black and brown culture, more so Black culture, because the Chicano style, or like, in Latin culture with tattooing, it's very well respected. But I would say the standard really for Black tattooing was really low. It's either you're going to get overcharged because someone is maybe colorist, because they think that your skin is harder to work with. Or you'll have the experience of, just like your basement tattooing and stuff like that, like just the quality of the tattoos. So to give people an experience where they're receiving professionalism, professional work, and in a comfortable environment, that's something that I really wanted to bring. And it's easy to not have that standard depending on the environment and the shops that you come around with. Tattooing is still, becoming more professional. It was once upon a time really taboo. So it was really for like the gangsters, the outcasts, the hustlers, stuff like that, the drug addicts. So to have a professional experience in tattooing is something that I maybe didn't always have. So that was kind of a challenge to have people take that seriously. Like, no, this is real work. You're going to pay me for my real work. And it's worth it.
To wrap up our featured broadcast, we travel around the state with Zach as he gives us a first-class ticket through his filmmaking journey in the many places that Connecticut has featured in the world of film.
So my name is Zachary Underwood. People also know me as Zach the Retro Collector online. And most of my content is about collecting and talking about 80s, 90s, 2000s nostalgia, like movies, TV shows, video games, and toys. Now, I started collecting back in 2018 when I was 13 years old. I remember going into an antique mall and I saw this DVD VCR combo with a copy of Star Wars on VHS. And the sort of wave of nostalgia just hits me right there in that moment. And it takes me back to when I was a little kid, when I used to watch a lot of stuff on VHS and DVD. Now, after that wave of nostalgia hits me right there in that moment, without any hesitation, I bought the DVD VCR combo with the copy of Star Wars. And from that day forward, I just started collecting DVDs and VHS tapes. Now, I wasn't just collecting DVDs and VHS tapes, I was also watching them. Anytime I would get a new DVD or VHS tape, I would watch it. But I remember this one DVD I got at my local Salvation Army. It was called the Toy Story 10th Anniversary DVD, and this DVD was just full of bonus features like documentaries, commentaries, even games. And the first thing I clicked on in that bonus features menu was this documentary called The Making of Toy Story. And as I was watching it, I was just amazed of how they were making these movies. And it really sparked my love for wanting to study film and also wanting to make films. Now, when I started studying film back in like 2018, 2019, I was actually doing it on my own time. I was watching documentaries on DVDs, and also I was watching documentaries on Netflix, and I was watching YouTube videos on like filmmaking and also film theories. And I remember one day I was talking to my dad about, filmmaking and all this, and he brought up the story about when he used to live in Norwich back in the late 80s, early 90s. He lived across the street from a set where they were filming this movie called Everybody Wins.
Everybody Wins was a movie with Nick Nolte and Deborah Winger, which was let's put it this way, it was not a box office hit. But I was living on the street that they were filming on, and they would shut down the street for the day while they were filming, so I needed to get out of the house by 7 a.m. Or I was going to be stuck there for the day. And then actually one of my good friends lived across the street, and they used her apartment as Deborah Winger's apartment, which was kind of interesting because she had to leave for the day too, so she couldn't go back home. while they were filming.
After my dad told me that story, I started researching film history here in Connecticut, and come to find out, a lot of big movies were actually filmed here in Connecticut, like Mystic Pizza, that came out like in 1988, and a more recent one would be the two Grown Ups movies. Those were like filmed in Richfield, Connecticut. And I can understand why filmmakers would want to film here in Connecticut, mainly because we're very quiet, especially where I am. It's, funnily enough, called the Quiet Corner. Now, when it comes to the question, when am I ever going to stop? And my answer will always be never. I'm never going to stop collecting, I'm never going to stop making short films, and I'm never going to stop making videos. Now, I think what motivates me to keep going is definitely the people I met along the way. You know, people I met in high school, college, and also people I met at conventions like content creators and also famous actors giving me words of wisdom, great advice, and always wishing me luck in my career. Now, what really motivated me from the start was this quote I found when I first was studying film. And I actually used this quote in my yearbook in my senior year of high school. And the quote was, "We all discover something we weren't expecting. It's just like life. You start down the path not knowing where it's going to lead you, but you enjoy the ride." John Lasseter, the director of Cars and Toy Story.
We thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Our thanks to our crew behind the scenes and the people who showed us the taste of Connecticut. And good night.